Hi, everyone. Welcome to the DesuckifyWork Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Nick Richtsmeier, author, advisor, and inefficiency expert. We talked about how the attention economy, or as Nick calls it, the addiction economy, is killing us, and how we need to move to a trust-based economy so we can create a world where it doesn't feel like we're slaves to a system nobody actually wants. So how can we create it? By stepping away from the algorithm once in a while, noticing things with wonder and curiosity, by giving attention instead of demanding it, and shifting from coercive funnels to actual human connection, by embracing creativity, and my favorite, bringing inefficiency back into the system. Why is inefficiency so glorious? Because it's load-bearing. Trust is built in the slow, the cumbersome, the figuring it out together moments. Trust takes time. It can't be automated. In fact, the more we streamline our operations, the more we strip trust out of the system. So how does AI fit in? It's a symptom of the problems we've been creating for years now, and yet it can also help us dig out of them if we use it smartly. Why does creativity matter more than ever? Because it's the best tool for navigating complexity. Integrative thinkers who can connect disparate ideas and build trust are exactly what we need right now. Finally, we leave you with a question Nick wants you to ponder. What's one thing that you think would be difficult to give up in the algorithmic system? What could you actually give up? Remember pondering? Let's do more of that. Welcome to the DesuckifyWork Podcast, the show where we cut through the BS and find ways to make work more fun, more human, and less ridiculous. All of which makes your business more profitable, by the way. If you enjoy this one, please like, share, rate, review, or subscribe to the podcast. Let the desuckifying begin. Here's Nick. Okay, Nick Richtsmeier, welcome to the DesuckifyWork Podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
I am excited to have you on. I think we're going to get into some fun, kind of heady stuff today. We may even start changing the way our economic system works, which I'm excited about. So before we get into that, I just give you a chance to give a little info about, who you are, what you do for work, and what you're working on.
Yeah, as you mentioned, my name's Nick. I lead a program called Trust Made Growth that we developed over a period of years, really to solve for these kind of fundamental issues with organizations' ability to grow. The whole concept of growth had kind of been outsourced to software and the internet. And post-COVID, we were seeing a lot of challenges with that, costs rising, effectiveness going down, distrust everywhere. And as I started building that out, I really started to draw from a much longer period of time, going back to the earliest eras of my work, and realizing from some of the research that we've been on this incredible decline of in trust systematically. Yeah. And some of that is accelerated by our digital playgrounds, and some of it is independent of that in some ways. And that was creating challenges in how organizations manage talent, how they do project management, how they obviously acquire new clients and customers, how they retain clients and customers. What I was seeing in the field is that and I'm not unique in this, a lot of people are talking about this, is that the tools, the opportunities, the ways that this is being solved for were more like workarounds than actual solves. So I'm kind of a root cause guy. So I said, well, what if we actually got to the root issue of where trust comes from, how it works, and that if you got to the root issue, you could actually solve for this in organizations that would have impact on all facets: organizational design, recruitment, talent management, marketing, sales. Because as I worked through the problems with our clients and prospects, it wasn't a departmental problem. It wasn't a marketing problem. It wasn't a sales problem. It wasn't even really a leadership problem. It was these fundamental assumptions that we'd been given by the culture in the marketplace about what growth looked like, and that those assumptions just either maybe never really applied terribly well, but certainly didn't apply anymore.
Yeah, I mean, trust is interesting right now, because I was thinking about this prior to the conversation, and it feels like trust amongst my family and my friends and even neighbors, like, it's fine.
Yep.
There's no major issue. But when you scale it to, maybe to the level of beyond community, it just feels like it's kind of vaporized. So what is going on there?
Well, I mean, I just want to validate, like, your lived experience is really what the data shows. The most recent Edelman Trust Barometer came back, and we haven't lost our ability to trust. It's just that overwhelmingly, what the most recent survey says is that 70% of us actively resist trusting anyone who we perceive as different. Right. And of course, well, what quantifies difference, right?
Yeah.
And part of the beauty of community is you get close enough to people and you realize, well, we're not that different.
Yeah.
Right. And so some of those walls come down.
Yeah.
So that's a very real lived experience, in part because the way that I teach it and the way I use it with our member firms is that it's really a base neurological concept, that trust is way back in the reptilian brain. And it's just that basic question of, are you going to harm me?
Yeah.
And if you are, then my hackles go up and I can't trust you, right? And that, are you going to harm me, looks at context and what's happening in the environment, right? It goes all the way back into sort of the animal kingdom kind of genetic code.
Yeah.
And because we've experienced little tiny wounds of harm so systemically, some of it's real harm, some of it's perceived harm, but we feel often that we live in spaces that are not for our good, right? And most of even the things that we want are delivered to us in venues that we don't actually think are good for us, right? So I buy stuff on Amazon, but I don't think Amazon is good for me.
Yeah.
I don't trust Amazon, right? Why? And what happens, this is the interesting sort of neurological thing. What happens when you feel any sense of distrust is it starts to shut down your nervous system and as a energy saving mechanism.
Okay.
And so we listen less, our actual peripheral vision closes in, our sense of smell goes down, right? All of the things so that we can focus on where we think the risk is. And so we close the aperture on the camera, right? And the crazy thing about the digital side of this, and again, it's not all about digital, but the crazy thing about the digital side of this is those arenas thrive on you not paying attention. So we should get caught in that sort of like scrolling hum, right? So that closed aperture actually keeps me in the hum.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny as you describe it. I'm like, I feel like you're sort of not aware, but almost aware of that when you're in the middle of like your doom scroll. Like your whole world shrinks. And
the only thing that you're hyper aware of is danger.
Yeah.
Right. So it's no surprise that when we are in that low trust state, which almost all of us are in all the time, unless we're with safe people.
Yeah.
When we're in that low trust state, what are we looking for? Bad stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So all this stuff that's become sort of, cultural parlance, like rage baiting and, internet lingo, all of that's just the nervous system just trying to survive.
Yeah.
In an environment that it's not built for.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think the presumption is that most of certainly these digital networks, the social networks and all of the, even beyond social networks, just the way we're delivered news, the way we're delivered content in general is feeding off of that understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you talk about this idea of trust-based growth. So how is it, or trust-made growth, I think is the phrase you use.
Yep.
Like, how are these two things connected? So I'm an organization, I'm trying to grow. I might be thinking, screw trust. There's this formula here that says, I need to bypass trust. I need to tap into, people's lizard brains and just feed them stuff. And I'm going to grow. So why are you, what's your offering that would compare?
Well, and that is what we've been offered, right? Yeah, that is the primary tooling that we've been offered is, hey, if you can just sort of trigger people enough, you can trigger them down the merry way, what is referred to as marketing funnels, and get them to do what you want. And that can work. Obviously has worked in some settings. Now, that what people need to understand, that, again, this is not about good guys and bad guys and who's the villains. This is just how stuff works. Is it just took the big players of the internet a couple decades to really realize what the game was.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've never done this before as a human race, right?
Yeah.
So it took a while for the Googles and the Metas and the big player and Netflix and the media companies and all of this to go, how does this actually work?
Yeah.
How does what we're building interface with community and the human brain and all this kind of stuff? Well, now they know.
Yeah.
And what they know is our magic bullet is this bypassing of the amygdala. If we can just get around your amygdala and get around your prefrontal cortex, right, you'll autoplay on Netflix and not even pay attention.
Yep.
And this is the nature of capitalism. Once you figure out a killer app, you're going to monetize the hell out of it.
Of course.
So if I'm a business, what I have to realize is if I buy into the trust working around trust, I'm the object of extraction. These massive entities are going to do whatever they can do to get the maximum amount of fees out of me possible. What I call the Silicon Valley tax. So we are supposed to be grateful enough that these entities exist and that they rule over the internet on our behalf, that we will pay them unlimited funds and resources. And you see this logic all the time in business and marketing. People are like, well, it's not Google's going to do what Google's going to do. We have to just play along, right? And we just have to sort of submit ourselves to the tax. And so we have to understand is that you then have to build a business model and a revenue model that means that your cost of doing business and your cost of revenue acquisition is going to go up forever.
Yeah, I'm plugging into the machine. That's the only place I can get any juice.
Right. And the machine owns you. You're on rented land forever. So some people don't like this because it feels political, but it is the most descriptive way of talking about it. It's functionally techno-feudalism, right? So feudalism is guy in a big castle owns all the land, and then he lets you put your pigs on it, and then he gets some of the revenue. That's essentially what we're doing. Is you have a feudal lord in Google or whomever, LinkedIn, and they're rent seeking, right? They're going to take the rent for the land that you're on, and they're going to increase the rent indefinitely until someone says they can't. Right. So big news this week, Google just filed a patent and received, and patent doesn't mean a product, but received a patent for the fact that it can take your website and replace it with a landing page that says what it wants to say about you. And so Google, it's possible that in the future, Google doesn't even link to your website anymore. It links to its landing page summarizing what it thinks matters about your website.
Wow.
So there is no internet. There's just the Google layer.
Yeah. And then you have to probably play by certain rules to then have it ultimately.
And they're going to keep changing. Again, past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior. They're going to keep changing those rules.
Yeah.
To
you can never sort of figure out the game.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So you can do that, and people are doing that to lesser and lesser success, right? There's a reason why we're seeing what they call a K economy, right? Where a handful of people and firms get bigger and more successful, and the rest of everybody else gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, we're not going to fix the K economy on this call, but this is an outjutting of the K economy, is because all these people down at the bottom of the K are spending their excess money paying the people at the top. And so they're in survival mode.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that organic growth is shrinking. Major industries that used to be thriving are now basically in consolidation. It's all about, and these when an industry converts to just, hey, well, organic growth is nice, but really we're all just going to grow by merging.
Yeah.
Like that, those are big, giant red flags.
Well, yeah. And it's interesting because I've been thinking about this, and I've been feeling very frustrated by probably a lot of what you've done a lot of research on. Like, that feels like most places right now. I mean, I come from the world of advertising. It most certainly feels like the advertising. Yeah,
advertising is a great example. Total M&A.
Massive mergers over the past handful of years. It was just a big one between Omnicom and IPG. And I think those of us who are sitting there doing the work from that space are like, doesn't anybody want to build anything anymore? Like, what's
Yes,
going
you hear that
on
a
there?
lot.
So why can't we build? Or if we can build, how in the world do we build?
Well, you've got to really reset your orientation. You've got to reset where your feet are planted in your constitution. And as a leader and a founder and whatever role you take as a person listening to this podcast, you got to reset your feet on the ground and go, okay, everything is trust. Everything is trust. And my audience, whether that's my team that I'm trying to build trust with, or it's my clients or my future clients, what we call the 5+1 communities, that group is inherently incentivized to distrust me.
Yeah.
So I got to do so much. It's not painful. You just have to, it's just a different way of orienting to the world. I got to do so much work to just be humble and go, I know I'm trustworthy, and I'm not going to take it personally when people don't see me that way.
Yeah.
And so, because they're just reacting the way that they've been trained to react. It's like, this is an extreme case, but it's sort of like when you like adopt a abused puppy or something. Like, like that puppy's not very nice,
right?
Initially,
it's not about you though.
Yeah. Right? It's not about you.
Yeah.
So, what that happens is it completely changes the way you orient to your team, to the marketplace, to your clients, because you aren't looking at it through the lens of, oh, well, I know me and I'm trustworthy. So this is the death phrase. They should trust me.
Yeah.
No, they shouldn't, because they've been socialized not to. You could be Jesus in the flesh, right? You have to re-socialize them. And it's actually not that hard because we're also starving for trust.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to re-socialize.
So I just want to see if I'm playing along here. So what you've described so far in terms of where we are, in terms of this extractive economy, sort of the attention-based economy, I think is the phrase that certainly in the marketing world and probably most folks are familiar with. That's the one that has us, our nervous systems are frayed. We're not trusting anybody. And so to do business within that, not only do we have to plug into systems that we didn't really choose and play by their rules, we're having to overcome a certain friction that's been put in place because of all of the work those companies have done to erode trust and creating this system that loops around trust.
Right. Like, and I mean, because if you talk to people at Google, they'll be like, listen, this is hard. We don't want to be bad people. We're like, the humans involved in this are in the middle of their same problem. Like, people complain about, well, why do we have to have AI summaries, and why do we have to have this, and why do we have to have these other things that nobody wants? And if you talk to the people at Google, they're like, because search broke.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've done of that as far as it can go, and you can't, so they had to do something else.
Yeah.
Right? And so everybody's caught up in it. Now, there are a few bad actors, and that we can have that conversation. That's not really the point.
Yeah.
The point is, nobody could have foreseen that this is what this system was going to evolve into, but this is the system we've got. And now we have to decide what choices we want to make.
Yeah. And so that there feels like, different entry points to that, right? There is a society-wide discussion around this that needs to happen. And I think it's wonderful that this is a drop in that bucket.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think you're dropping more into the bucket with, I know you've got a book out and you've got, the work you're doing every day, and we can come back to that. And then there's, I guess, the question of like, well, what do I do? What does my company do? What does my team do? And I think underneath all of that, like, what are we pointing towards? If it's not the attention economy, what do we want to be living in that's going to be more supportive of the kind of growth that we actually want as human beings?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little reductive, but like, I want a trust economy. I want an economy that is built on earned transactions of value and trust, right? Because that's the way the nervous system works, is you bring value to my life and it opens up the aperture for me. And then because I open up the aperture, I see you a little bit better and more value comes through.
Yeah.
And then I trust you a little bit more. And then I have capacity to absorb when you screw up because my aperture is open, right? But if my aperture is really tiny and you come at me with a mistake, right?
We're done.
So I want an economy where we can ebb and flow, and you can make mistakes and I can make mistakes, and we can learn and we can be multifaceted in that way. Well, to do that, we have to engage in actual agreements and transactions where you give something, I give something in return. We know what the value of those things are. It's explicit. Part of what's broken about what we've tried to do in the software space, and I have software clients, there's nothing wrong with software.
Yeah.
But part of what's from the underlayment that's broken in that is there's so much implied value, right? Like when Facebook came out, the implied value was you can connect with anyone.
Sure.
But that wasn't the real value.
Yeah.
Right? The real value ended up being something else, and you never paid for it. So how valuable is it? Right? So we never could get our head around what's the actual transaction. Now, some people say, well, that's advertising. That's how advertising always is. But you've worked in advertising, too, just so you know this. Television advertising isn't that way. When you watch the sitcom in the 90s and there was commercial breaks, it was very clear what the transaction is.
Yeah.
In exchange for getting Family Ties, you have to watch this Dove soap commercial or this Ford Motor Cars commercial. That's the transaction.
Yeah.
Right. But when we're being triggered and manipulated and we can't see the difference between the product and the actual service and the actual, underlying, it confuses everything. Right. So if I'm a small business or if I'm a leader of a medium size or whatever, if I want to sort of nudge away from that.
Yeah.
What I want to nudge toward am I making clear agreements?
Okay.
And are those agreements an opportunity to exchange trust for value? So like one project we do with sometimes with small businesses is we just look at their onboarding of what happens when somebody new comes into the business.
Okay.
And we just look at each point in the experience and go, how much trust do you need from the person to be at this point in the experience? And is the value you're offering consistent with the trust that you're asking for? And then we go to the next experience. Is the value you're offering consistent with the trust that you're asking for? We go to the next experience. And it seems really, really simple, but you'd be amazed at how many times it snags.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like, we're over-servicing this and it's creating confusion, or we're asking for more trust than we've earned by, like once we start to see things through those lenses, all of a sudden we become much easier people to deal with, easier businesses to deal with, easier to say yes to, because we don't have to do these coercive overlays on things.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting in that, and this is sort of coming from a personal perspective, I run my own business. I'm an executive coach and do some consulting. And, certainly based on every like personality assessment I've taken, I'm very high trust. And I sort of presume high trust from people. So you throw me into this world and I'm probably creating snags everywhere. Because I'm inviting in people into spaces where I'm treating them like we're here. And they're like, dude, I barely know you. And everybody feels like they suck right now. So I'm not ready for that yet. So it's really eye-opening to hear it even at the personal level of how to engage. The question that comes up for me a little bit is whether this is me, whether this is a smaller, small company or even a bigger company, like there's a comfort in the known bad thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how can I, do I have to make a clean break? How do I do this in a way where I can, stay connected to the thing that's keeping me alive right now and start to transition to something that's not only going to keep me alive, but keeping me feeling good about being alive?
Yeah, totally. So this is going to sound like a sales pitch. I'm not here to make a sales pitch, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how we literally do it, and then we'll apply it to anyone who's listening to the call.
Yeah.
So we have an organization, a venture version, and we have a leader version, but we take them through a diagnostic. And the diagnostic is simply, the purpose of it is, where's all the trust imbalances in your venture? We measured across 6 factors and we show where you've sort of overplayed your trust hand, where you've underplayed it, and where that creates fragility or resistance in the organization, right? So that process, it takes us about 30 days to do. What it's fundamentally doing is it isn't saying, go change everything, change your orientation. But I do need a leader who's ready to be brave.
Okay.
Now, bravery doesn't mean we have to change everything, but if you're just like, hey, what's the quickest, fastest, easiest way to solve this? Well, trust is never the quickest, fastest, easiest way to solve anything.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things I say all the time is that friction and resistance is load bearing. Inefficiency is load bearing. So a little bit of inefficiency is actually how we build a good world.
Interesting.
So we need some inefficiency to build a good world, right? So if I need a leader who's willing to absorb some of that inefficiency, we look at your business, the larger business, if it has 100 employees, and go, okay, where can we take calculated risks to lean you more toward trust? If we might keep your $25,000 a month in Facebook ads running, right? Because that's keeping the doors open. That would be silly to not keep the doors open. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to de-risk you from an extraction machine. Well, how can we start the process of de-risking you from an extraction machine? Sometimes that's launching a different opportunity, different product. Sometimes that's opening up a new relationship pathway where we start to develop some new opportunity outside of the digital funnel. It really is very context dependent.
Yeah.
But what we're looking for is every organization has some untapped spark, some stuff that's really, really good that doesn't actually fit very well in the extraction machine.
Yeah.
And so what I'm looking for is where's that spark?
Okay.
And how can we leverage it to do good things?
That's interesting. I mean, that definitely lights me up as soon as I hear that, because I think that's probably what a lot of people are feeling frustrated with right now. Certainly folks from my world of advertising and all that. It's like all of the spark feels like it's being squashed and diffused right now. And that's the whole reason most people got into that business, is to just play in that spark.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think, what I wonder about, two things. I want to come back to your note about inefficiency being load bearing, because that's interesting to me. Like, can you give an example of an inefficiency and how it helps kind of support and prop trust up?
Yeah. So, let's use this as an example, right? You and I are going to have this conversation. Some people are going to take the time to listen to it. And some percentage of those people are going to listen to it at like regular 1x speed.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be distracted. They're going to be paying attention. It's a very inefficient way to access this content.
Yeah.
And I haven't paid attention to your marketing engine. Maybe somewhere they can get a 10-point bullet point summary of it.
Right.
Right. And will they be able to get the gist of what we talked about in the 10-point bullet point summary? Yeah. But the inefficiency of hearing the softness in your voice when you go, that makes me feel good to think about it that way. That little line, that makes me feel good to think about it that way, will never make it into a summary. The tone in your voice will never make it into a summary. But the inefficiency of that moment softens me as a listener. It brings down my anxiety. It brings down my despair, my emotional overload. I actually don't feel as alone because I'm like, oh, TJ, I feel connected to him.
Yeah.
Right. And now all of a sudden I'm on the balls of my feet instead of the heels. But I had to do an inefficient thing to get there. I had to listen to the podcast.
It's really interesting. I love the example. I think what I'm learning from this is that there are certain inefficiencies in my life that I absolutely love and depend on.
Yes.
I love reading books, and, there's all kinds of ways to get that information more cleanly and efficiently. And it makes me think about this word efficiency too, because that seems to be like the sole purpose of work these days, right? You show up at work, and even if they're not using that word, it's basically cram more stuff into the day and hopefully drive bigger results with that amount of stuff. And obviously AI is like jamming that home. And so if I'm a CEO of a 100-person company, like you mentioned, and you start throwing things around, like you need some inefficiencies in your business. I'm curious, like what kinds of reactions are you getting when you start to introduce people to these concepts?
Yeah, well, I'm not I was going to say I'm not usually leading with that, but it is the opening quote on my website, so I'm kind of leading with it. I think my starting point is always that every person I'm talking to, no matter how they present or what tools, both literal tools and like emotional, psychosocial tools, whatever tools that they've used to armor up so that they don't feel susceptible to all of this, at a core level, every person you're talking to is feeling the same three effects of the world that we live in. They feel lonely, they feel anxious, and they're mentally overrun.
Yeah. Wow.
And all three of those things, some more than others, drive us to efficiency. Right? They drive us to, can we just get this over with? Right? Can we just do less? Can we just do as little as humanly possible? right? And so when people say, well, I just want this to be efficient, I don't hear an enemy. I don't hear somebody I have to fix.
Yeah.
What I hear is someone in pain, because efficiency is like, gosh, this sucks. When is it over?
Yeah.
And there are parts of work that do suck, and we would like to do less of them, and let's figure out ways to make those things efficiency. But the whole thing, right?
Right.
And so I'm not usually leading there. What I'm leading there with is I'm trying to find spark. And I'm trying to find, whether I'm working with the CEO of a 200 person or 300 person company, or I'm working with a solopreneur, is what I'm trying to find is there's a reason of all the things in the world you could be doing, you're doing this.
Right.
And some of them, they like spreadsheets, and some of them, they like the people part. I mean, I don't care. I'm agnostic, right? Yeah. But there's something about it that works for them. And they would like to swim around in those places and do it all the time, right? And they would actually like those things to be, like I was on the call with a client this morning, and we've worked so hard to put them in a position to attract better talent. It's one of the many things we've been working on with them. And they had an interview with a great candidate this morning. She was supposed to stay for 3 interviews for 30 minutes, and her first interview took 75 minutes with the founder of the firm. Well, that's really inefficient.
Yeah.
He didn't need 75 minutes with her to decide yes or no.
Yeah.
But guess what? He was having a really freaking good time. Right? And he came out of that so lit up.
Yeah.
Right?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you're liking what you hear and like the idea of making work not suck, I invite you to schedule a free half-hour discovery session. What role is work playing in your life right now? Let's talk about it. All right, back to the show. That's such a big deal, the enjoyment of it. I mean, there is a podcast I listen to called The Art of Accomplishment. It's hosted, one of the hosts is named Joe Hudson. He's a fairly well-known executive coach. And he has, I don't know the exact formula, but his basic thought around efficiency is enjoy things and they will be more efficient.
Yeah.
It may not be efficient the way we think of it, but you're going to do anything that you enjoy, and you're going to do it better, and you're going to stay with it, and you're going to repeat it. And so enjoyment is actually the lever, and we almost look at it the other way. I have to get through this because I'm going to hate it.
Yes.
And if I am enjoying something, actually that feels inefficient. Like you said, the 75-minute conversation. So I love where you're going there. I love that you're starting with the spark. I want to come to your book because I know you've got this book coming out, and it's talking through a lot of this stuff, but you've got some interesting stuff the way you're outlining it. It's called The Damn Rules.
Yeah. I
like the title of the book. So what's the premise of the book? And then we can get into what are the damn rules?
Yeah. I mean, the reason why it's called The Damn Rules is because of some of everything we've talked about. There's a part of all of us are like, I don't know if I've got it in me to do the hard thing, right? We all feel a little worn out and et cetera. And the other reason why is, as I've taught these rules to people and shown them to people, there's a little bit of well, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Right. And it's another example of where I think how we think about thinking is not serving us, right? Just because something's obvious doesn't mean it's not going to challenge us.
Yeah.
Right. So the Damn Rules is really, if you want to get back to trust, if you want to get back to a humanist way of building businesses and ventures that don't feel like you're either subject to an extraction machine or you're running an extraction machine, there's just some rules you got to follow. And they're not good or bad or whatever. They're going to bristle a little bit, right? Rule number 2, for example, is it was never about you. It was never about you, right? Well, okay, I get it. That's that damn rule aspect of it. But wait a second. How would I run my venture differently if I understood that it really wasn't about me? That it actually says nothing about me. My legacy isn't what happens to this thing. That who I am as a person is not tied to this, that it doesn't rise and fall on who. I talk to so many leaders who are so wound up in, if I don't figure this out, the whole thing falls apart, right?
Yeah.
And that's a version of it's all about me.
Yeah.
Right. And when we can liberate them from that pressure of hey, this lesson you're in the middle of was unavoidable. Jesus in the flesh couldn't have solved for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're an executive coach. I'm sure you do versions of this all the time, right?
Hmm.
But we have to get people off that hook so that they're more open to, because I can't, if I'm all wound up on my own, whatever, I
Yeah.
can't trust. I can't invite
Yeah.
trust. Like there's just things I just can't do.
So I love that concept because it feels very freeing when you say, I mean, I love that phrase, like Jesus in the flesh couldn't do this. And it's just kind of acknowledging, like, it allows you to release something.
Yes.
On the flip side, there is this question of identity,
Yeah.
right? And certainly the bigger role work plays in our lives,
Yep.
the more it starts to attach to our identity. And that can be, I think, for good and for bad. I mean,
Sure.
I think there's a sweet spot where work is just really like feeding us. And so how do you hold on to the side of work that's feeding you and fueling you in this wonderful way and having the ability to release and recognize, like, it's not about me?
Yeah. I come at it from the view of you can't over release, right? We can't be too open-handed,
Okay.
right? Because what my experience has been, both with myself and other leaders and people I've worked with, is you get to that place where you're really just like, it is a gift to me that I get to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of like gratitude's kind of like the base level of open-handedness, right?
Yeah.
And so if you think about, let's say you started a business and it's grown and it's 30 million in revenue or 40 million in revenue. It's this big thing. You have employees and people depend on you and your name's on all the masthead and all that kind of stuff. And it feels very egoic just by the nature of it. But the people who do that well, how do they do it? They show up every day and go, I'm just lucky to be here.
Mm.
That their identity is that they're a match, right? There's an energetic match from what's needed to what they bring, and that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be in places where we're an energetic match.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be here.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this thing doesn't need me either.
Yeah.
Nor does the world need this thing.
Yeah.
Right? This thing I built, it could go away.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Especially as things are accelerating, right? Things do go away more quickly. There's a phrase I've heard, I'm probably getting it slightly wrong, but it's like the idea of having a strong identity but loosely held,
right,
is kind of what I'm hearing there, which is like for the moment in time that there is this energetic match, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Be grateful for it. And then when circumstances or your own choice or the world's choice says that's gone, be like, great, what else is out there for me?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Because having a deep sense of who you are and what gives you energy and what doesn't, and where you're a value add and where you're not, that's super important, particularly as you progress in your career.
Yeah.
We all had the luxury of our 20s where we felt like we could do it all.
Yeah.
Right. That sense of actual containment of like, I can't be all things to all people. There's just some places where I'm going to thrive and where I'm not. That's super important. But even that you can wear with gratitude and go, I didn't invent this thing that I am,
right,
that I'm capable of these certain things and I'm good at X and bad at, like, I didn't invent that. It is some, whatever your belief system is, tells you it is some consequence of something.
Yeah.
God, genetics, the cosmos, whatever you believe.
Yeah.
But the one thing we know is you didn't invent it.
Right.
And so we are always recipients of whatever's working.
Yeah.
And as long as we can stay in that posture, really good things can happen.
Yeah. I really love that. I think it softens something to hear that. And you talked about the things like anxiety and the things in just the hurt that we're all dealing with. And that feels like a small little thing, like string that's popping and no longer holding me when I can start to embrace that. I wanted to check on just some of the other rules. The first rule is interesting to me because it's another one of those ones that I think bristles people a little bit. Yes. No one's paying attention.
No one's paying attention.
What do you mean by that specifically?
I mean that pretty close to what it says is literally nobody's paying attention. Now the way that I deploy that is that rule has lived much longer than the others to some degree. Because I was in conversations, a lot of my work for a stretch of time was specifically in marketing. I've done a lot of different things. There was a stretch where it was more marketing focused. And in that era, you talk to founders or heads of marketing or whatever, and they're like, yeah, but if we do this, they're going to notice that we said the other thing a year ago, or they're going to,
Oh God,
or we're
yes.
going to, you've been in these conversations like, oh, if we
Yes.
change the logo, this or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I over and over, I just found myself saying to people, listen, nobody's paying attention.
Right.
Nobody care. Like nobody cares that your logo changed. Nobody
Mm.
cares that you changed the tagline on your LinkedIn. And I'll tell this story because it makes me look like a jerk, and then people can see that I'm a complex, I contain multitudes. When I was a young manager, I was managing people just out of college, first jobs,
Mm-hmm.
very thirsty for kind of the early millennials, right? So just based on my age, early millennials,
Mm-hmm.
very thirsty for approval. And it was a sales-based organization. And I remember one person, she was reports to the person who reported to me. So I had a training manager, and that person managed this woman. And she requested a meeting with me, and she was like, I just feel like you think this about me, and you think this about me, and you think I'm not doing my job, and you think I'm gonna do this. And I had just my really shitty Don Draper moment as I was just like, I'm really sorry. You think I think badly of you. I don't think about you at all. Right.
I remember that Don Draper line.
Right. And this was pre Don Draper.
Yeah.
So Don Draper stole it from me. But that is really the truth.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're so in our own heads.
Yeah.
And so that frees us to make different choices. And it also frees us from the attention economy. The attention economy was a branding decision. When a bunch of whoever got together and said, hey, we're going to call this the attention economy, that's a branding decision.
Yeah.
Because it glosses over what it really is, which is an addiction economy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because when people click on your thing or download your, case study or whatever, they're not giving you attention. I mean, come on. Right. None of that's attention.
Right.
It's coercion. It's forced engagement so that I can just get to what I really want to get to.
Yeah.
But attention is me sitting having a conversation with you over a glass of wine. That's attention.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
So you just unlocked something interesting for me, right? Because I think everybody who does any of this kind of sort of entrepreneurial, solopreneur or small business work, you've got something on your site that does say like, download this thing and blah, 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 and set up this free whatever. And like, we're all trying things to create customers, right? Or attract customers or gain attention in this economy. And I think almost all of us hate it on some level, meaning like, of course, like if I have a tool that's useful for you, like I just want to like have a page filled with tools and you can go grab any of them you want. You don't need to give me any email, just grab. But we feel like this is the game, right? I have to play this game. So in a trust-based economy and a more relational-based economy, do we have to have the glass of wine with something or the coffee with something? Like what, how do I start to connect with people outside of this ecosystem?
Yeah. First thing I would say is if you're in the ecosystem, you do have to do it. So like people will be like, well, Nick, you do this stuff. You have downloadables. You have this. I'm like, yeah, because if I'm in that world, I've got to live by the rules of that world. Yeah. And I certainly wake up days and wonder what it would be like to take my whole business analog, and maybe someday I will, but I haven't done that. And now outside that world, again, this is where we start really thinking about planting our feet and being willing to literally see through different eyes. So the starting point that I train people on with that is funnels don't exist, networks do.
Okay.
So particularly HubSpot has been notorious to making us believe that there is such a thing as a digital funnel. There is no such thing as a funnel.
Okay.
Right? There's just different coercive pieces on a network of spaghetti pathways. But networks do exist.
Okay.
Networks are human. Networks are sociological. Networks are built into almost every animal, plant, insect, right? Networks are real. Yeah. They also are inefficient, ironically. And so the majority of people we work with, either the business itself only needs 10 to 20 good opportunities in a given year, or each salesperson needs, something in that range. If you're selling something and you need 200 or 300 opportunities in a calendar, you're really doing something else, right? You're selling something super transactional.
Yeah.
I can live in that conversation. Like I had a client who was a butcher for a while. Like we can live in that conversation.
Sure.
It's just a different conversation. But assuming you're in that 10 to 20 range, then the reality is that almost probably everybody you need to talk to this year is 1 degree of separation from you.
Okay.
And the way you get to those people is not by getting attention, by giving attention. So
what does that look like?
I in addition to delivering Trust Made Growth, we also train it to coaches and consultants. And when we're training people on it, we could do this thing called notice meetings. And notice meetings is just simply getting in the habit of 8 to 10 times a month, spending 30 to 45 minutes with someone and intentionally building the meeting around noticing them.
Okay.
And there's this process for that, and there's kind of tools and ways to do it well. But it's also the way that we communicate. I was working with a CEO the other day. We were working on an outreach program for him to kind of rebuild up his pipeline. He has a pretty good network. So we flushed out some opportunities in his network, like leads that had gone dead, people he'd talked to years ago, whatever. And I said, okay, let's go through each one. What do you remember about this person? And what was meaningful about the conversation with them?
Yeah.
And what interests you about talking to them now, other than selling them something? What interests you about talking to them now?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're going to lead with that. Because when I used to train salespeople, the tool we used to use back then was the most powerful word in sales, most powerful phrase in sales is "I thought of you and." And so if network exists and everybody you need to talk to is 1 degree of separation from you this year, then how many "I thought of you and" conversations do you need to have? Not that many.
No, it's kind of wild to think about. I mean, a couple of things are standing out to me. I mean, this noticing idea, when you bring it down to like, what stood out to you about this person? What do you remember about this person? I think like when I'm reaching out to people in my network to try to connect and all that, I don't know that I'm not probably doing some of the things you're talking about, and that's interesting. But I'm also realizing the reason I'm thinking of those people is because I could write 3 things easily. Like I'll scroll through my LinkedIn contact list and some people jump out at me and there's some gut reaction. It's because I like that person. Why did I like that person? Oh, remember that project we worked on, or they were just always really supportive when I had a problem, or honestly, they were just really friendly or whatever. You know, the thing that you mentioned about the, I was thinking of you or whatever the phrase is, that I love it. And then the thing I hate about it is it's being co-opted in this attention economy, right? All
Totally.
of the automated messages are like trying to create that same feeling. I mean, the trick I see a lot now is my friend, my coworker just noticed your profile and, they thought I would appreciate it, and they thought this about you and I thought that we should talk. Like, it's like they're trying to get to that noticing, but it's false.
Right. So you got to do it in a way that is more frictive, right? Has more friction, but so then therefore is real, right? So you can't, I am a big believer, and I've had people on my podcast who disagree with me, and that's fine. People do believe different things. I'm a big believer that you really can't shortcut this by you can't consistently shortcut by finding some interesting thing on their LinkedIn profile and messaging them about it. It has to be real. Right. And so that's why it's about 1 degree of separation, because I'm not saying every one of these notice meetings you're going to have is going to turn into a prospect. What I'm saying is you're going to get to the end and a couple of things are going to happen. One is, oh, that's so cool. Maybe I need that, right? TJ, I didn't know you were doing that. Maybe I need that. That's going to happen a handful of times. A handful of times, probably 2 to 3 times, they're going to be so overwhelmed by you noticing them that you're not going to get a word in edgewise. Because everybody's lonely, afraid, and emotionally overrun. So you're going to open the spigot and they're going to go blah, 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 and take over the call. That's fine. That's going to happen 2 to 3 out of 10 times. And then the other 5 to 6 times, you're going to go, hey, I'm working on this thing. I'm really passionate about it. They're going to be softer toward you because you've earned it. You've spent time with them. Is there anybody else I should be talking to? Right? Because networks exist.
Right.
Right.
And you've laid the trust groundwork, or you've reignited it is really what I hear. The groundwork was sort of laid because we're somehow connected.
Yeah.
in some
Well,
way. And then you're reminding people a little bit of like,
it really goes back to what I was talking about, that CX work that we do where we test every spot, trust versus
yeah,
value. It's the same thing. Is in this notice meeting, how much does this, did I really know this person or were they kind of an acquaintance?
mm-hmm.
There's actually, interestingly, I wish I had like the raw data for this, but it's very hard to collect. There's like this range of them just enough, but not too much,
Mm,
that they become really, really highly convertible prospects, right?
yeah. That's an interesting thought. And as you said it, I'm like, yeah, there are some people where you get to the point where like it feels awkward because we
Yeah.
know each other so well.
And not that those people can't be clients,
Yeah.
they can be, right?
Yeah.
But that's just one technique among many, where
Sure.
once you pivot toward the reality of networks,
Mm-hmm.
right, then you just behave differently.
Yeah.
When you send out your email, it's not, how can I send out this email and get as many people to increase my open rate as possible? It's my weekly newsletter I'm going to send out. How many conversations can I get out of this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As you're describing this, the thing that's ringing so true for me right now is in the midst of all the sort of chaos and turmoil in the market, AI, this and that, people getting laid off, a lot of my conversations that I have with people, there is an undercurrent or an explicit conversation around like people kind of just want to get off the train.
Oh,
and that
yeah.
shows up as I want to quit my job, or I want to quit this kind of work, or
Yes.
I want to do something on my own, but God only knows what the heck that would be. But I think what they're feeling is the effects of this kind of an economy. And what I hear you describing is don't just jump off because there's nothing really there. But what you can do is start to build an off ramp and start to build an alternative pathway for yourself that allows you to do the things you like doing them, but connecting in a very different way to the people you'd be doing them for.
Yeah. And the reality is the side effect, one of the many side effects of the attention economy, the addiction economy, is that we're just completely unaware how much we're complicit with it until we start pulling away.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So some of these things are like, well, I got to quit my job, or I got to go live out, off the grid in a field. Right. I mean, I'm in those conversations all the time with people.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because they're again, the aperture is so closed that they can't see that they've got 1,000 small choices they can make to make this better. And every time you make one of those small choices, your shoulders soften a little bit and your spine picks up, and all of a sudden there's another choice you can make. So like, this is kind of a silly one, but it's personal. Not that long ago, I just made the decision. You hear about this all the time, nothing special. I'm like, okay, I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to move my phone charger. I'm going to put it outside my bedroom. I'm just going to put it out in the hallway.
Yeah.
And my ability to just like ignore notifications that are not interesting to me or valuable, to not be checking LinkedIn, to all the things that I know I don't want to be doing, went up astronomically.
No doubt. Yeah.
Just because I'm retraining my nervous system.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, what's wild about that is it's reminding me that I've probably had 2 or 3 1-hour conversations around that topic alone.
Right.
Like somebody just wants to create that space, and there's so much nervous system attachment and addiction to this that it takes an hour just to work through the idea that I'm going to try it. I'll just try for a night, see what happens, or I'll try it for a week. And like, it really is amazing. And, this idea that all these choices are in front of us. The challenge is you have to see them as choices, and the economy sort of creates the addictive glue that they don't currently feel like choices. Like not having my phone charger next to my bed, you're insane.
Right. The degree to which we've complicitly allowed our agency to be shrunk to these very tiny, tiny things, when really we have so many choices.
Yeah.
And each of those choices compounds. And again, if we just talk about nervous system, our nervous system starts to open up, and then that gives us more choices. And all of a sudden you're on a call with a prospect and you have more courage.
Yeah.
And you can negotiate a better deal, and you're not just saying yes to stuff you know you shouldn't say yes to, or you're meeting with your boss is like, hey, can we just do this quick campaign? You're like, no, right? And all of a sudden they listen to you because
Yeah.
you have some aura and some presence, because you're right. All these things are compounding.
Yeah. You're rooted at that point. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So one thing I want to touch on real quick, I know we're going to wrap up here, but so many folks that may be listening come from the world that I came from, which is advertising. And you come from marketing, and creativity is this big piece of that. And I think people are feeling starved for how they can express creativity in this current economy. So as you describe this different kind of economy, what role is there for creativity if we move more to a trust?
I mean, I think it's everything. And whether that's literal creativity, art, wordsmithing, wordcraft, storytelling, but also there's no one way through all this, right? These systems are as embedded and as rooted. I don't think we really understand how deeply rooted this stuff is in a way that, the power dynamics of how societies run and economies run is dramatically shifted in the last 40 years. Yeah. That's our big philosophical discussion we'll have on a different day. If you accept that premise that really the pylons of our social and economic structure have shifted, as I do, then, oh my gosh, we need so much creativity.
Yeah.
Because there is not one way through this. We're not barbarians at the gate going, tear down the system, right? Like it's not a Bolshevik revolution, which that would be bad anyway. This is 1,000 tiny decisions.
Yeah.
And people who have a creative mind, who can do integrative thinking, who can say, hey, this connects to this and connects to this and connects to this. And wouldn't it be interesting if it produced this third or fourth completely different thing? People who can do that are the most valuable people right now.
Yeah.
And are going to be for a really long time.
It definitely makes sense. I've heard that phrase a lot, like that creativity is valued and all that. And I think the missing link has been in this extractive economy. It feels like lip service.
And a lot of times it is.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. But if you choose a different path, suddenly now, well, it's all there is, right? It's now, what do we build? What do we create?
Yeah.
How do we answer those 1,000 questions that are out there? Yeah.
And what I will say is, what I don't want people to think about is like spatially imagine like one world over here and another world over here. Yeah. These worlds are mapped on top of each other.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So the creativity matters. It matters you're in the boardroom and everybody's locked in on the percentages and this and that, and the VCs want more this and blah, blah. Everybody's in the extractive head game.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say, oh, can somebody find a creative person to fix this problem?
Yeah.
But the person who has the constitution
to
go, hey, wait a second, let me notice that and notice that and notice that. And what if this? And has the skill to communicate that in the right way, at the right time, at the right speed, because they know how to deliver trust in increments and not in waterfalls.
Yeah.
People who know how to do that, they are valuable even when people don't know that they're valuable.
Yeah, that's so
true. And I say that because I've lived it. I've lived it over and over and over again, that all of a sudden the people who are so head down and closed go, I didn't even know that was allowed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been telling people in the advertising world who are either currently out of it for economic reasons or whatever, like, knock on a lot of doors, because what you bring to the table is really useful. So I love that you're sort of not only affirming that, but building on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to touch really quickly, just real quick. What is your view on AI in the mix of all of this?
Yeah, I mean, AI, I've said a lot about AI in public spaces. Some of it, was contextual. Some of it, it was reactionary, probably, like all of us were.
Sure.
It's a big deal, right? And so what AI has done is accelerated a thing we were already doing, which is building a completely new layer of alternate reality. Right? So what AI has accelerated dramatically is a flexibility about what's real. Does it really have to be real? Does it have to,
Yeah.
and there are co-contributors to that. We don't need to talk about them by
Yeah.
name, but there are other contributors who have really helped accelerate as long as like 80% true, or,
Yeah, I get it.
the facts-based world is under massive assault, and AI is helping that because it's close enough and it feels
Yeah.
good.
Mm.
AI has gotten a lot of blame for that when really it's an accelerant to what was already happening.
Yeah.
The other thing is AI is also a branding term. And it covers everything from, spell check, apparently spell check is AI now, all the way to really sophisticated data-driven machine learning. And what I will say is there's some really cool things happening with AI to solve some of the digital problems that we've created for ourselves. That there's an enormous fragility. Like if we hadn't gotten to AI and large language models and large data set, the ability to manipulate large data sets, if we hadn't gotten to that, we would have been, and to some degree still are, at a level of digital fragility. And I talk about this a lot. Like I live in a town that's full of insurance companies, and most insurance companies are working on computer systems that started in the 70s and then were later on in the 80s and then later on in the 90s. And it's all run by one guy who knows the secret passcode, and he's kind of got like his finger in the dam at the bottom of the building, and he's 72 years old. The beauty of deterministic AI, that it actually uses real data, they can actually fix that. And turn all that unstructured data into structured data and manipulate it and solve real fundamental high risk problems. So, it's another layer of the world that we're swimming in. It's also it's a huge trust breaker.
Yeah. And I think that's where that visceral reaction obviously is being felt, and it comes from, but it's like, how do we, find ways to use it in ways that support what we want in our life? And the short answer is it's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, what I tell people all the time is in your individual existence, unless it's mandated by your boss, abstention is a perfectly valid choice. You can totally, like, my kids hate it.
Yeah.
I have teenage boys. They hate it. They're like it's an insult to say something so AI. Right? So my teenagers hate it, and so like they don't want anything to do with it. And that's a legitimate choice, right?
Yeah.
Now, I have other people who are very analog in the way that they live, and they're creative and they're expressive and all that kind of stuff, but they're in roles where they couldn't possibly get through their day without the assistance of Claude to get the day done.
Yeah.
And one of them said to me the other day, they're like, I don't want to finish every day feeling guilty for what I had to do my job. And I said, don't.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like there's some purist version of this where all of a sudden you didn't boil the ocean with water usage. Like, we're all doing this.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can't think systemically and try and solve problems. But at the end of the day, it's like it's like when they used to make us feel guilty about plastic bags, and then we're supposed to feel guilty about paper bags, and then we're supposed to feel guilty about plastic bags.
And now
then it turned out the whole thing was a manipulation by the oil companies, so we wouldn't look at them for actually being the real problem. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I get all that. It's rare that the thing on the surface is the truth.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I know we've talked a bit. I've asked you a number of questions. I'd love to give you a chance to throw a question out to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you do this. I think what I would love to know from the audience is, what's one thing that you think would be difficult to give up in the algorithmic system, right? We're all in the algorithmic system in some way, right? And I think we all have our hooked in places. And I don't want you to think about that because, then that's the thing you got to go after.
Right.
I actually want you to think about it, one, because I'd be curious to know. I think we all assume it's like Instagram or something, and maybe it's something completely different.
Yeah.
But I also want you to think about it to say, well, okay, well, then let's take 5 or 6 steps away from that and go, let's leave that thing alone then.
Yeah.
And what if we made a different choice over here, and how that might look? So that's my question for everybody for reflection is, what's your algorithmic thing that you're like, I'm not ready to let go of that? Okay, great.
Yeah.
What's something else?
Yeah. I love that. I don't know what my answer is yet, but I'm going to ponder it. I'll try to have an answer by the time this goes live. So if you could wave a magic wand and fully desuckify the world of work for people, what does that world look like?
I think it looks simply that we have all gotten enough grounding underneath us, right? We've lowered our anxiety a notch. We're a little less lonely. We're a little less emotionally overrun. That we have enough capacity to negotiate difference. Right now, we don't have any capacity to negotiate difference. We don't have it. We've lost it. And that has so many consequences. So my world of work doesn't take away conflict. It doesn't mean it's not going to be irritating. It doesn't mean we don't have to do something. But even corporate work, which is usually the thing people are like, I'm out on this, would be 10 times better if we just had a little bit more nervous system space for difference.
I love the way you phrased that, the capacity to negotiate difference. Like, as soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah, it's either we're avoiding it because we feel that our systems are just going to like collide with each other, or when I have to do it, I'm like bracing for it. So I'm actually increasing my nervous system load just to kind of get ready for it. And a lot of the work I do with people is trying to help people kind of work through that and figure out how they can approach hard conversations in a way that works for them. But at times it does feel a little bit like, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's like, okay, we can certainly tune our nervous systems, and there's a lot of good things you can do around that.
Absolutely.
But there's some of this systemic stuff too here that if we change the way we operate within a team, within a company, that opens the door tenfold.
Yeah. I mean, that's the challenge, right? We're not, in a lot of cases, we're not going to be met 50-50 on that effort, right? But if we each increase our capacity a little bit, then, like, I just came out of a situation, it wasn't work related, but where, there was a trust breaking situation and it was really, really disappointing. And we tried to negotiate it and we tried to set new boundaries and set new, and at the end of it, it was just really, really clear that the other party just couldn't be what I would have needed from them for me to trust them again.
Yeah.
And so then I just have to, and I'm not in a position where I can just not be in a relationship with them. It's just a structure where I have a potential relationship. So yeah. So then if I have enough nervous system energy, I can just go, okay, so how can I be present to this with boundaries and self-containment and all the things I need to because they are who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're all negotiating those kinds of things every
all
day at scale. Yeah. So to lighten things up a little bit here at the end, I'd love to, if you've listened to my show, you've heard some cats meowing and other goofy sound effects. I'm inviting you to contribute to that. Do you have any sound that you'd like to add?
I mean, the problem, the brainstorming this when you told me about it, and the sound to me, it's not going to make a sound. I would love it to be a big exhale.
Okay.
Like, so I don't know if the microphone's going to catch that, but to me is the sound, is a big exhale.
I love that. I mean, it feels obviously very connected to what we've been talking about. I think collectively we feel a need for a collective exhale. Yeah, I get that. That's a big one. So the last question is, where can people find you online, learn more about your book, all the good stuff you're doing?
Yeah, so my newsletter comes through a site called damsgiven.com, so you can find me there. If you're interested in any of these ideas, we have a free community that no obligation, no nothing. It's not like sort of free, but then you have to pay a little bit. It's literally free at trustmadegrowth.com. So happy to have you there if you want to join us there. Those are probably the best places.
Okay. You're on LinkedIn as well?
I am.
Okay.
For now.
I know. You're playing the game, but for now, I'll give people a chance to connect with you there too, just in case that can spark something.
That's perfectly good too.
Something more real. Well, the book is called The Damn Rules. Nick, I'm really excited about what you're doing. I think this is as consequential a thing as I can think of right now in the world of work and business and just our life in general, in terms of, how we're spending our lives, So I'm grateful for what you're doing, and I'm here to support it however I can.
Awesome. Thanks, TJ.
Thanks, Nick. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the DesuckifyWork Podcast. And a huge thanks to Nick for bringing a hopeful way forward to the show. You can follow Nick on LinkedIn and check out damsgiven.com to learn more about his work and upcoming book, The Damn Rules. You can also visit trustmadegrowth.com to join his online community. If you enjoyed the conversation and would like to find some calm in the chaos of work, I invite you to schedule a free half-hour discovery session. Type meow in the calendar invite, and I'll also send you a free Desuckify Work t-shirt. Bye, everyone.